President Xi said he's preparing for war. I assume it's against us. Is that a wrong assumption?
Well, it's not against Belgium or Luxembourg. Look, I think the bottom line is we're in a conflict. And I think we have to start talking about it that way. You know, a lot of time, most of the people are up here now don't remember. You know, I was very young, obviously, at the end of the Cold War, but it's been about 30 years since there was another superpower on the earth that was in conflict with the United States. And we are back in that place. And we need to stop pretending like that's not the case. Now, I hope it's never an armed conflict, but it's a conflict at every level you can imagine.
Our dominance is waning. Now, how fast does it wane?
It'll be a 10 to 30 year period, but things can get bad over the next 3. It reminds me of 1980 through 2007.
Yeah.
Once we went super tech heavy, it led to the downfall because we started printing money too fast and putting too much money into these companies.
They've captured our elites. And they call it elite capture in actually Mandarin. They have purchased the head of the NBA. They purchased the Wall Street. They purchase, you know, the top people. Peter Schweitzer put this in his book, Red Handed, where he talks about how the American elites are bought and paid for by the CCP. There's a great expression in Mandarin, and it's roughly translated, little bad talk, big help, which means they might talk a bad game against China, but they're a big act of help. You look at the cover, he has Elon Musk on there, which I think is a little unfair, but he has Joe Biden, John Boehner, Nancy Pelosi, LeBron James, I think that's Henry Kissinger, and then Bill Gates, all of which who benefit tremendously from the Chinese Communist Party.
And then you see what happens when, like, a famous American actor like John Cena steps out of line.
Yep, immediately put back into place.
Or in Mandarin.
Or the NBA was regulating who could wear things in the stands of free Hong Kong protester shirts. Remember that? It's kind of a story that was suppressed a couple years ago.
Yeah, with Daryl Morey.
Yep, you were not allowed to even go into a National Basketball Association game with free Hong Kong t-shirts. So it's a hyper, I mean, you think about it, it's these associations, Hollywood especially, Hollywood, banking, and sports are the 3 major industries that are controlled by the Chinese Communist Party.
Hollywood, banking, sports.
There's more than that. Tech too, but not even as much as Hollywood, banking, and sports.
So China is slowly putting all the pieces together. We're talking about capturing the US elites, elite capture, you know, buying out, you know, the NBA and all this stuff in America, buying out so much land, properties, all of that stuff, capturing the US elite and big tech. Meddling in the Middle East conflict and actually uniting them, which is actually interesting because this is where you just can't believe everything you see in propaganda, right? When you think about what is America's involvement in the Middle East, and I talked about the agreement, the petrodollar agreement that it made with Saudi Arabia, it actually fueled the division within the Middle East. America acted like a typical colonizer, went to the Middle East, saw that these guys are tribalistic, they're having these tribalistic types of wars, and kind of divided and conquered. And, you know, so this is how they brokered deal, because Saudi Arabia wanted to be the superpower in the Middle East, and America facilitated that by supporting them with American military, but in exchange for the petrodollar. So backing dollars buy oil and making sure everybody that buys oil has to buy it in US dollars. So this was the agreement, but what did that do? It caused a divide in the Middle East. But what is China going in to do?
It's really being overlooked, in my opinion, by the media, and I don't quite understand it. And this is the peace deal that has been brokered, you know, by the only adult in the room, and that has been China, brokering a peace deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran, 2 mortal enemies.
And also, isn't Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq also?
Well, Iran and Iraq, they've also brokered a peace deal between Iran and Iraq, where they've now built a railway between the 2 countries. Yeah. They are mending fences. But in terms of what happened in Saudi Arabia, you know, here you got Sunni and Shiite. They've been at each other's throats for centuries. And it is a reconciliation between the 2 countries brokered by China, and the 2 countries are now reestablishing diplomatic ties and opening embassies in each other's country.
The proof is just in the pudding. And I'm not this China advocate. Every country has its flaws. I just think we have to look at these things objectively. China is going into the Middle East and they're brokering partnerships. They're making Iran and Saudi Arabia, who have been mortal enemies for decades, maybe even longer. They're uniting them Iran, Iraq, all these countries that had conflict are being united because of what? China? China knows what it's doing, but the proof is in the pudding. How did America rise to fame, rise to power, and how has China done that? China has done it through collaboration, mutual benefit. I'm not saying that China is a better option. I'm not saying that, because you never know. The snake might come out down the line. You never know. But I'm just saying, it's just interesting to observe, and how you start something is typically how you finish it, right? It's going to be hard for China to start, beating on a new tune when this is the tune that they set the tune of, collaboration and mutual benefits. And it'll be interesting to see them change I don't think so. I don't think it'll be hard. It will be hard for them to do that, but they're capable, because as I'm breaking down for you, all the little pieces to the Chinese puzzle. So what else is there? Developing BRICS, and that's potentially even a currency, right? The Belt and Road Initiative, that's the idea of building infrastructure in all these countries, so many countries, right? The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is what? The Shanghai Cooperation Organization is a Eurasian political, economic, international security and defense organization, basically a military.
There's several groups that are all tied together like this: the Belt Road, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the BRICS, and the Eurasian Economic Union, where the Belt Road Initiative has every one of the 13 OPEC producing countries on the Belt Road, the largest infrastructure project in human history. It's all connecting through trade routes, if you will. For example, the north-south corridor that connects from Iran to India and allows Iran and Russia and India to trade without going around waters that are patrolled by the US Navy. It allows them to have the ability to reach each other much more quickly and without the Western influence. And all of these routes and all of these agreements are bringing the world together against the West. And it's
is it really a road?
The Belt Road Initiative are roads, bridges, maritime channels, railways, all of these things. And, all of these things are coming together.
Years and years ago, Marco Polo days, it was called the Silk Road.
It's the exact same thing. But it's more than that, too. You have this deal, and if you look at what China is doing, right now you have Iran and Iraq, of all countries who've hated each other for centuries, are currently in a brokered deal by China in the final stages on work of the first rail connection between the two states in history. And they can easily connect. It's a 1,500 kilometer railway. They can also connect Syria and Lebanon, all part of the Belt Road Initiative. You have other Gulf states that are coming together, like the UAE and Kuwait, but all of this, none of them more important than what just happened, and that is the Chinese mediated Iran-Saudi Arabia deal, where they're now building, for the first time ever, they're putting embassies in each other's countries, and they are coming together, I think, in what is mutual cooperation, where everyone economically cooperates in mutually beneficial ways with the view not only towards building common destiny, but this represents a massive nail in the Western hegemony, where all of these countries, where the West has really precipitated and this constant bickering, China's coming in and building infrastructure in Africa, in South America, in Saudi Arabia, in Iran, in Iraq, and all of these countries, they come in, they build infrastructure, and they are creating cooperation against the West.
So all of these little pieces have been put together one at a time. And China's been very strategic with this, because it's like little droplets and all separate. So America might not have had the foresight to see this tsunami that was coming for them, because the Chinese said, okay, well, this is our defense alliance. Well, you guys have the G7 and you guys had the G8, then you guys had the G20. And even though we're a part of the G20, we feel like it's still not inclusive enough. We're going to do our own thing. and they started BRICS, right? We're gonna do our own thing, and we're gonna do the Belt and Road Initiative. We're gonna do our own thing. We're gonna do Shanghai Corporation. They're putting all these pieces together, and when you put it together, this is a juggernaut, China. This is a super China. And it all sort of happened in a way that America just like, whoa, look at all these pieces. And these are all these countries just collaborating with China, and now it's majority of the world, all against America. But the real question is this such a bad thing? That's the question. Is it such a bad thing? The decline of the dollar, is it such a bad thing for the rest of the world, for the whole world? Yes, of course, in America, it sucks. It sucks for America, right? But if you're watching this channel, you're probably an entrepreneur, or you're probably into money. And the question is, yeah, sure, America's great. I was walking down the street and I was just looking at, how beautifully manicured the gardens are. I was just, how fresh the air is, how clean everything is. And I was just wondering, in 30 years from now, is this all gonna be gone? That's sad. It really is. But with all of that, I also understand that that's going to be somewhere else in the world. And if you're a true entrepreneur and if you really understand money, you're going to follow the money, right? I would hate to see that happen to America. I love this country. But at the end of the day, make sure that your money is good. Put your money where it needs to go. Invest your money where you need to invest it to get the best returns possible. This is why you should travel the world. This is why you should get educated. And there's always going to be money in America, no matter what. There's going to be money, right? But ultimately, my question really for the rest of the world, for the world, is it really a bad thing? So stay tuned. I'm going to make more videos like this. In the next episode, I'm going to break down how Ukraine expedited the decline of the dollar. And then another episode, I'm going to talk about central bank digital currencies. I have so much to talk about. There's so many layers to this. So stay tuned. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, all the above. My name is Kenim O. You're watching the University of Making Money, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.